Hi everyone, my name is Frances. I'm here with Kenra Professional and today I'm so excited. Here's my lovely model Jasmine. We're going to be doing a shadow root blonde transformation. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm going to be breaking her up into 4 different sections. We have 4 different zones. So zone 1 is going to be all of her hairline around the front and in the back of the nape. Zone 2 is the back, mid to back teasy light section. Zone 3 is going to be the top of her crown, that's the baby light section, and Zone 4 is going to be her front mani piece. So I'm going to start in the back and work my way forward. I'm going to specifically pick out the areas in her hair that are a little bit darker. So here's a section, my first section. I'm going to do a light tease starting in the middle of the hair. I typically never start teasing from the ends because it actually takes away from the highlights falling in through the bottom. So I always start in the middle and start teasing up, and this is just for softness. So since we have the darkest area here, I'm going to be using Simply Blonde Blue Powder Lightener at a 1:2 ratio with 20 volume. And then we're going to be doing a V-shape application. And typically I like to paint downwards. That way it keeps me with a lot of control with the color and the hair is not being pushed away. Right in through here, I'm going to do my V shape and just lightly paint down. A little pro tip I always tell my stylists is try to avoid painting this way. It's nicer to have a light hand, that way you can just glide the color. You will get an even lift that way. And I recommend never to fold your foil, so I'm going to just lightly place that here, allowing it to process really evenly. Since her hair is already pre-lightened at the bottom, I'm going to leave out her ends and we'll hit those a little bit later once the top portion of the hair that's darker will catch up to the ends. This next section is a little bit lighter than her previous section, so I'm going to go in with Beyond Bond Lightener and 30 volume to protect her hair. And same, I'm going to just tease out a little bit for softening, but still continue with my V-shape application. And her ends still being pre-lightened in this area, I'm going to leave those towards the end. I am ending this corner with a darker piece, so I'm going to be using the blue powder. Another great reason to do some back combing is it teases away some of her previous highlights, so I'm just working with the dark canvas. And a little pro tip for the best lift, I highly recommend to always take thin sections when you're working with darker brunettes. I want to be able to actually see the foil through the other side. I'll even take my brush and start pulling the hair apart to make sure I get the hair that's underneath, so both sides of the foil are being saturated. So now I'm moving on to my zone 2, which is my foliage section. So for zone 2, I'm actually going to grab my larger comb. I'm going to be doing a lot more back combing here. We want to create a lot of dimension, but this way I can also grab more hair in one section. This specific section I grabbed has more highlights to it, so I'm going to be using my Beyond Bond. I'm going to continue this pattern all throughout zone 2, selectively picking out which areas already have highlight, and that is when I'll decide which lightener I'll be using. One of my biggest recommendations is to always mix up a new bowl of lightener every 15 minutes. This is great for when you are working with darker tones, you want them to look really bright, is to always have a fresh bowl of lightener ready to go. Some of these sections that have a lot of highlights in through here, I actually want to create some depth. So we're going to do a low light in between, and that will really make her blonde stand out, is intermixing some of her natural back in. The contrast between the natural and her new highlights that are going to be a little bit brighter will really make the whole entire blonde pop. So I just finished my zone 2, which was my foliage section. Now I'm moving on to zone 3. This is going to be my baby light section. And the reason I like to start in the back and work my way to the front, that way if the back is ready first, it's so much easier to rinse out the back before I get to the front. So this is my zone 3, and the reason I have zone 3 considered into one section is because zone 3 is specifically the baby light section. This is where you really see all of the brightness in her hair. This is where she's going to see the brightness, and this is where all the clients are going to see their brightness. It's all about on what's in through the top. For this section, I'm going to be switching to a baby light technique. So the reason I'm doing a baby light instead of such large sections is because this is going to determine how blended and soft her grow out is. She does want a very low maintenance grow out, so keeping it softer application at the top will allow for that. So I'm using the blue powder lightener at the root. She has about 1.5 inches of root, and then I'm going to pick out her dark pieces that have not been highlighted. And to protect the highlighted hair, I'm going to put a foil here underneath, and that way I can just continue to paint on the top. So even though we're doing a baby light technique, I'm still going to do a light back combing. I also like to just lightly feather in through here. You don't want the lightener to expand and bleed into the rest of the hair. Each baby light section I'm taking down is about 1/2 inch apart. And as I work my way up, I'm spreading that apart even more so. That way she has a softer grow out. This will help avoid lines of demarcation if you go too heavy with your foil at the crown. I always like to make sure you can see through the back of the foil. The finer the sections, the quicker this will process. Now I'm just using the blue powder lightener since we're working with her natural. So now we are working towards the front of the hair. We are back to what I consider zone 1, which is her hairline detail. So I'm going to be starting in the front hairline. This is her zone 1, and the reason I consider it zone 1 is this is where I put all the detail into her hair. This is where when she pulls her hair back, you're going to see all that detail when she has her hair up in a ponytail. Okay, so for this section, I'm going to do a little bit of a switch up. I'm going to do kind of a light microwave section, almost a baby light, and then I'm going to take my foil, and instead of placing it on her hair line, I'm going to actually go away from the face, moving her little baby hairs out of my way. That way I could really see where her highlights are going to fall. And just for the client comfort, I like to do a little bend away from her face, but I'm not smushing the foils in together. Okay. As I work my way up, I'm doing what I like to call my little pie sectioning. So you're going to see it curve in through this way, and that way she's going to get the most highlights around her hairline, and it's going to allow for a little bit of depth right in through here. And then we're continuing with her baby light technique. Still doing a light back combing at the root just for softness. When I'm working with my brunette tones, I love to make sure everything is fully saturated. This is really going to help with your lift. It's probably one of the most important factors, is just getting that full saturation. And you can see besides the hairline, I never bend my foils. I want to make sure that her lift always comes out very even. And I'm still going to continue with my pie shape. So what you'll see is me making sure everything at the hairline is getting highlighted, but I'm okay with leaving it with a little depth in through here. So she had previous baby light highlights. So what I'm doing is, so I don't overlap her previously highlighted hair, I'm picking out with my comb the dark pieces, so whatever is her natural. And I don't want to put the same lightener on the dark pieces as I am the light pieces, because that's where damage can be created. So I'm putting a foil here to protect it. These foils actually need to be processed a little bit more, so here's a great pro tip, especially with working with brunettes. Just to keep everything fresh and continuing lightening, I'm going to hit it one more time. Still using Simply Blonde Blue Powder and 20 volume. I'm going to continue through checking each foil, resaturating if needed, just to make sure she's lifting perfectly. Okay, so I just applied my baby light sectioning for the front, but I do want to get her as bright and blonde as possible. So I'm going to go back through in between her foils, and I'm going to go back to my V-shape application using the Beyond Bond lightener because I'm working over hair that's been previously highlighted. So the hair is a little finer right here, so I'm going to be using my smaller comb for this application. And I just want the hair that has been previously highlighted, so when I grab each section and I see any dark pieces, I'm going to just pull those out of my way. And I'm really working just with the hair around her hairline so she can have a lot of brightness around her face. Now her ends are already light, so I'm going to just kind of feather through those ends for now, and then once this catches up to the ends, then I'll pull the color through the bottom. So I'm going in between her baby light sectioning, and I'm going to switch it up to my V-shaped foliage application. I want to get her as bright as possible around her hairline. So I'm going to go in with the Beyond Bond lightener since this hair has been previously highlighted. And we're just going to try to get a lot of brightness around her face. Okay, I'm going to move forward and repeat this on the other side, starting with the foil around her hairline, baby lights through the crown, and then we're going to do her foliage in between. Okay, so I just finished highlighting all around her hairline. Now I'm going to switch to the last zone, which is zone 4. This is her money piece section, and we're going to switch from a baby light to slices. I want to keep her as bright and bold and as possible in the front. So for her money piece sections, I'm going to be doing some slices, fine sectioning to get the best lift, and these foils are going to be set back to each other. So the first section I picked up, you see a lot more of her baby hairs. So for this section, to avoid it looking like a hard line of demarcation when she pulls her hair back, just for this first section, I'm going to do kind of like a microweave, and then we will continue with slices for the sections above it. Okay everyone, I just finished doing my full application. We are now going to just let her process and just keep checking her foils every about 15 to 20 minutes and see how she's lightening. As soon as I reach to my desired level or get close to my desired level, then I'm going to actually go in with a demi and start painting on some lowlights just to break up her previous color. I really want the blonde to sit on top of a deeper color, and that's really going to make that blonde stand out and show that dimension in there. Okay everyone, so she is almost ready to be rinsed. We have about 15 minutes left. I would say her highlights just need probably about one more shade. So this is a great time to begin my low light formula. I do want her demi low light to sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. So what I want to do is create some depth in through here. She also has some previously highlighted hair that seems to be sitting a little warmer. So I'm going to be using the demi 5NUA to cancel out that warmth. We're going to do it at a 1:2 ratio with 9 volume. I'm still going to use a foil just to separate it away from the rest of the hair, but what I'm going to do is not fully saturate the demi all the way through the ends. I don't want to lose any highlights in through here. We just really want to create the depth right in through the top. So full saturation at the roots where the highlights begin, full saturation in the midsection, but as we reach to the ends of the hair, I'm just going to lightly feather. Okay, so as I'm moving onto the front of the hair, I'm not looking to grab every single section. We're not trying to remove any lightness in her hair. I'm just trying to create some depth, mainly targeting the areas that are a little too warm. So when I'm painting the low light in, I'm painting in an angle, and this is just to emulate the effect of a balayage. Basically what I'm looking to do is start her off with completely fresh looking highlights. Right now her previous highlights were sitting at a level 7. The ones that we are doing are already at a level 9. So it's going to make her highlights look completely fresh by removing basically whatever she previously had. And here's a little pro tip to get the perfect blend. Her lowlights are pretty much processed, her highlights are ready to be rinsed. So the last 30 seconds right before I'm about to rinse, I'm gonna start pulling the demi through the ends. This will help give you a nice little fade and avoid any hard lines. Okay, so my model Jasmine is ready to be rinsed, so we're gonna go ahead and get her rinsed and shampooed to get her prepped for her Shadow Root toner. So we just rinsed and shampooed and got her prepped for toning. I also sprayed my porosity equalizing solution. This is very important to get an even tone. So for her Root Shadow toner, I'm using Demi 4 NUA, equal parts with Demi 5 NUA. This will bring it back down to her natural without bringing it too dark. And then for her highlight formula, we have Demi Rapid Toner SV, equal parts with Rapid Toner Beige. So I'm going to be applying this starting in the back. That way, if it needs to be rinsed out quicker, it's so much easier to get the back rinsed out before I rinse out the front. Okay, for the hairline area, I'm just doing a light root tap. I'm going to move on to the other side before I do the money pieces. The money pieces we're going to do completely last. So we're working on her money pieces. I always save those for last because I want to keep those the brightest. So you can see from when I'm doing her Shadow Root, I did melt it down a little bit more. The money pieces I want to sit higher. So right when I get to them, I'm going to just do a light little root tap. So I want to make her hair look like a perfect blend. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my big Y2 comb and I'm going to melt down the NUA first. And typically I'll use my comb to brush it down, but then I'll use the back of my comb to actually really push and melt that color down before I add her second formula. And when I move on to the front, this is just preference, but I love the end result, is instead of just pushing it down straight, I almost create a halo. This gives it that really pretty flow with your balayage. Also, since we did just a light root tap on the money pieces, it's really gonna start high and then melt into a low. It's kind of like a fun signature thing I like to do. So now that I melted down her color, we're gonna go with the highlight formula. This is the Rapid Toners. We're gonna start connecting it from where I melted down. Okay everyone, here is the final result. I am very happy with it. Just to do a little recap on what we did 4 different sectioning for her application. We have hairline detail foiling, 3 slices for her money piece, we have foliage in the back, and into the crown, you can see I left her very dimensional. That way she has a really beautiful and blended grow out. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if there's anything else you want to see from me, please let me know in the comments below.